All right, what is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining. Um, it's been a minute, right? We had the elections happen, and then now we're in the runoff. So, for those of you that don't know how the runoffs work, basically, if the candidate, if a candidate does not reach 50 plus 1% um, of the vote in the actual election, then there is a runoff between the top two candidates. So there were definitely a couple of races. There were 5 races, I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 races that went into runoff because one, there were a lot of people, a lot of candidates in those races. So that always usually will happen. There will be a runoff. And even if a person gets like 47%, and people are like, well, I thought they won, but no, they don't. They have to get 50 plus the 1%, or 50, I guess, 0.1. What is it? So they have to reach that amount in order to actually win the seat. So if you have 50.1 or 50, whatever it is, 52 or 62, then you definitely win, and there is no runoff for your race. So that is what's happening, and that's a kind of breakdown of how the runoffs work. If y'all didn't know how those work, because a lot of people don't know, that's fine. So definitely, it's good to understand how those work, because if you don't know, can't learn from that, right? So, all right. So we are going to have our next guest here. Oh, and just before we start, if you are new to this program, my name is Eric Velasquez, and I'm basically interviewing as many candidates I can for the local city elections in San Antonio. It's important to know who these candidates are. It's important to know basically what they believe in, what their stances are, and we need to be able to educate ourselves on the actual candidates that are going to be on the ballot. Because if we don't, then we're doing a disservice to our democracy and our city. So, and with that, um, and oh man, I don't have the updated time for the early voting and everything for this runoff election. So my apologies. I'll have to look back at it later. Um, but if any of y'all do have access to go look at it real quick, just pop it in the comments and I'll read it off. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our next guest. Hello.
Hey, Eric.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Oh, awesome. All right. So, oh, let's see. Hey, Crystal, what's going on? um, so yeah, so let's go ahead and introduce yourself, sir, for the people who have not heard who you are and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I'll just to add to what you were saying a second ago. It's the early voting is going to run from May 24th through June 1st, and then election day will be June 5th on
Yeah.
Saturday. So
Okay.
those are the
It,
dates.
it's a short little run, right?
And like you were saying, it takes 50%. It takes 50% plus one vote.
Mhm,
What the
mhm.
actual figures are.
Yeah.
So you're right on target there. But we, of course, we are in a runoff. I'm Tomas Uresti. I, of course, one of the 12 that entered the race, and it ended up only two, of course, myself and my opponent. And so not neither one of us got the 50%. So now we're gonna have to go into the runoff and then see who the people decide that they want to represent them in District 3. Uh, I I served as a Texas legislator for from 2017 to 19. I served on the Harlandale School Board for a total of 13 years. As a state rep, I served on the government transparency and operations committees and the county affairs committees. As a school board trustee, I served as board president, vice president, secretary. I served on the finance committee, building, insurance, policy, and curriculum committees throughout my 13-year tenure there. So, and I've served as precinct chair. I've served on the board of directors for the Bear Appraisal District from 2009 to 2019, 2009 2013. I'm sorry, 4 years. So I've got some experience in a little bit of experience and being able to oversee a position like this, which is it's a very complex position when you go into city council. But with the experience that I have as a school board trustee and a state representative, I think we'll be able to hit the ground running without any hesitation at all.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And it was interesting because I actually did run for District 118 last year.
yeah,
And you know, it's definitely it's a huge district, right? It's a huge district. So what are some things that you think you could bring or did you hear while being a state representative from the district itself? Obviously it's different than the District 3, but it definitely encompasses a lot of District 3.
yeah, we take it pretty much. 118 covers pretty much in all of District 3, not all of it, but a very good portion of it. But then it goes all the way out the far east side, outside 1604 into Universal City. But District 3 pretty much runs from Rigsby down south to 1604, and that's all anything that's in San Antonio city limits, and then from 35 all the way to 410 on the east. So
Mm.
it's a big area. It's 83 square miles.
Yeah.
So the largest district in San Antonio. But the biggest concerns that I've heard as I'm out, talking to people and holding forums and what have you, is that they want they want quick response from when they're concerned, and they know things can't get fixed the same day, and sometimes that certain ideal that they have may just be something that's going to take a year or 2 years to get actually fixed or changed. But they want development, but they don't want gentrification at the same time. So they want to be able to bring nicer restaurants and nicer uh, different types of stores, larger. And we want better public safety, better street lights, more boots on the ground with our officers from SCPD, better response time from the EMS, and just so many things. There's curbs, there's the streets, uh, the potholes, the no sidewalks. I took about, and I'm not exaggerating, I probably took 300 pictures of different locations throughout District 3 that were sidewalks are lacking. And these are in school areas where children walk on a regular basis. So there's a lot still needed in District 3. I know we've come a long ways from way back when, but again, there's always need for improvement. And so, I'm ready to get after it and make things happen.
So, in your belief, why aren't these things happening? These simple, basic necessities of infrastructure, why are they not happening? Is it just because there's low voter turnout, voter apathy, or is it because the elected officials are not pushing hard enough? Because we see it in the other districts, we see it in these districts that are fighting for this money for allocation for infrastructure to better streets and better sidewalks, but it's not in these neighborhoods that are either lower income or have low voter turnout. So why is this not happening in district three?
There's a couple of things. One, we have areas to build more homes where people, because a lot of people want to come back to live where they grew up at. They want to be near their parents in here in the South Side. But the development is very costly, and what has taken place is the developers, and you look at the chain of how the city is designed. If you go downtown and actually look at the chart, or go online, look at the chart, it's the way it actually works is your citizens are on top, then it's your mayor and your council, and then it's your city manager, and goes down and down and down. The way it's been treated over the past 8 years, it's been developers are on top, then it's city council, and then the citizens are down at the bottom, and that's what's taken over. We've dropped millions into Brook City base. And I love that it's there. It's great. There's a lot of apartment complexes around there. There's some great businesses there, and I do go to many of the businesses. But the problem is that they put the wagon before the horse, and I've said this many times. The abatements have come in to protect the developers. My proposal is going to be to give the abatements to first time home buyers, homeowners, so that we can bring more homes to this area rather than just these businesses. And I want businesses because I'm a small business owner also, but we're doing too much for the developers. That area has been built up tremendously, and again, it's a good area, but they put the wagon before the horse, because now that it's done, the abatements were given, the taxes were not paid. So now we're going to have to flip the bill to correct the congestion we have there. We're going to have to widen Goliad north of Military and south of Military, and then, of course, Military itself, because if you ever drive to Goliad Road and Military Drive, it's a 20-minute wait just to get to that one intersection. And that's if you don't get yelled at, screamed at, honked at, or flipped off in between all that. So it's rough. It's not fair
Yeah.
to the people that that live in that area. So
Well, yeah, and like you mentioned, I mean, we were doing a simple look at in Bear County Appraisal District that one one hotel, and I'm not going to say that. I mean, I said it before. It's okay. So it was one Embassy Suites on the north side. It was paying about $700,000 in property taxes.
right,
The one on the south side by Brooks was not paying any property
right.
taxes, and
Right.
that's a lot, huge, and I'm pretty sure that's not the only business, right? That's getting that. So, but our people in the community are getting hit hard, right? Um, and yes, we can protest the taxes, but at one end, like it keeps going and keeps going, and we keep putting this burden. I know city council just passed recently the to where they have to accept what are those, the vouchers for I think, was it low income, or accept the vouchers for people who have a lower income, um into some of these new buildings, into some of these new apartments. I don't know if you saw that or not. They just passed it, I think, yesterday. um so I mean, I guess that's kind of a step in the right direction, but at the end of the day, why aren't we putting these developers, like like put them into where we are making them pay for the infrastructure that they're building around, and doing that, and having them pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we doing that?
It goes back to exactly what I was just saying a second ago. Now we're gonna have to fix the streets surrounding Brook City Base. If you build a home right now on any street in San Antonio, you have to pay to build a sidewalk. The city's not going to pay for it, so it comes out of your pocket. If you want to build a new home, that's yours. Yet the developers in Brook City Base, they can build their businesses, and now we're going to have to fix the sidewalks. We're going to have to widen the streets to make it better for them. So they're going to win all the way across the board. One of the things that I'm proposing on, as far as on the taxes, is to take the tax amount that the homeowner was paying prior to the pandemic, and leave that rate there for the next 5 years. One, to help people get back on their feet because of the money that was lost during the pandemic. And if you just keep it at that rate, let the value of the property go up, but not the taxes go up. Because it's not fair that we take a homeowner's property and say, okay, we don't want to raise your taxes, so we're going to lower the value of your property. Well, that's not fair. We want our property values to go up because in case we ever look to sell. But at the same time, how can you raise the value of a property and raise the taxes if the school across the street is closed? It's not worth the same. If the businesses next to you, adjacent to you, are not open, your property is not worth more, and you shouldn't be paying more taxes. So we need to find a way to either, again, make it retroactive back to 2019, and let it be for 5 years to help give some kind of relief to our taxpayers, and then at the same time, the other thing is to give first home, like I said earlier, first time home buyers, an abatement to them for at least 3 years to 5 years, and no more to the developers, unless the developers have agreed to, and it's signed, and it's held, and they're actually held liable to bring a certain amount of jobs, because they're getting the abatements, they're not bringing the jobs, and then they're leaving town, and then we're getting stuck with the bill.
Right. And here's a crazy thought, but it's not crazy. Why not have these businesses pay for it themselves, as far as the, fixing the roads or whatever, and having their own means to do it, right? Obviously, still follow the code and make sure that it's worthy for us to drive on. But because if you think about it, these businesses will always find a way to get things done in a more efficient way, and probably a heck of a lot cheaper than the government usually spends on it, right? So, do you think that could happen if we try to push that?
Well, it could, if we make it as part of the agreement when they come into San Antonio, because a
Mm.
lot of these companies are coming in from out of state. Now,
Yeah.
if the school district, and I remember we ran into this problem at, I think it was at Morrill Elementary. If a school district passes the bond and they're going to build a new school, and when we built Morrill, uh, we had to build the sidewalks. We had to wait for the city to give us the approval, and we had to jump through hoops to get sidewalks done. But the point is, the taxpayers had to pay to have sidewalks built all the way around the school, which is good for the children, and no problem. But now these developers are not. They're not having to pay for it. We're paying for it. The taxpayers are paying for it, and we have taxpayers that are to the point to where, and I've talked to many people about this, where we have our senior citizens that are having to decide on whether to pay for their prescription drugs or pay other bills such as their taxes, and
Right.
that's not right. I mean, and shame
Right.
on us for letting this happen to get to this point. It's
Yeah,
wrong.
definitely. And just honest question: have you taken any money from any developers?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
nothing many over there. I've some friends have given to me, and I've gotten some contributions online. I've put, I believe, about 8,000 out of my own pocket. I don't want money from developers. Not a penny. I'm not going to be developer friendly. Put it that way.
Okay. Zeke asks, what is your position on bike lanes in the South Side?
We need a tremendous amount of back lanes. There's no two ways about it. It's very dangerous. I see them a lot of going up Mission by the golf course, and but once you get south of that area, there aren't any, none at all. And so we're gonna have to do a little bit more widening on the streets, and yeah, we need to get a tremendous amount so people can ride from all the way from south to 410 all the way downtown. There's no reason it should just be that little area.
Yeah, definitely. Anthony asks, we the people that is who is supposed to be at the top of this nation, we are each sovereigns in a democracy, police reform. Good morning, Tomas. Good luck. Hey, the fire department doesn't drive around looking for fires. Why don't we get the police to be more like the fire department? We will call you if we need you. We need new ideas, but something must change. Good morning, Anthony. Any any takes on that? I mean, I know there's been the huge push for police reform. So what are your positions on the whole police reform issue, or if any?
Yeah, and what I've spoken with SAPD about is the negotiations are coming in right now. But what's going to have to happen is SAPD knows if they have a bad officer, bad actor, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to be the way I see it. It needs to be put up to left up to SAPD to correct whatever caused that problem within the police department, whether it was in the initial stages of training as cadets, whether it was the mentorship program that they have with each officer, and they're going to know which officers it is, if we have any, and they're going to know how to correct the problem. So my first idea is to let them fix it and give them a certain amount of time to resolve the issues and to correct the officers. If not, let the officers leave the department. And if they can't, then we step in. But we need to provide the funding for whatever programs they need to implement or whatever different training they need to implement. But I think we need to let the professionals deal with it first. It's just like to have somebody come into my business and tell me this is how you're going to fix your sales. Well,
Right.
I mean,
Well, true, but you're not on taxpayer money, right? So I think the whole point is they are on somebody else's money, right?
right,
Not
right,
their own. So if you were to put something like, okay, well, if you do get in trouble, that's going to come out of your own pension rather um than actual taxpayer money, right? Uh, give them some type of motivation, because the way our system is now, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could say, okay, well, we're going to do these things and have them fix it, but if it's an internal problem, it's an internal problem, and maybe it needs to be done from an outside perspective, right? But also, again, it's still coming out of our pocket, right? We're spending, $444 million in for the police department, but it's coming out of our dime, right? So, do you think that's still the best way to go?
Well, again, it's basically there's concerns that have been brought up by the community.
Mm.
So my stance is this: fix it. If not, we're going to step in and fix it at whatever cost. And if it means having to start cutting benefits, then that's what we'll do. But again, I say we give them the opportunity, which I'm not talking about 15, 20 chances. You got a problem, fix it now. If you can't, then we're going to bring an outside agency to fix it, or we're going to step in and fix it ourselves.
Well, isn't that? I mean, wouldn't that not work though with current contracts like the way we have it now with the arbitrate the what is it called
Arbitration,
ar-
factor contracts,
yeah, I forget what the terminology is called, collective bargaining agreement.
bargaining. You're talking about
Yeah.
bargaining,
So, I mean,
right?
isn't it? Wouldn't that not work though? Because if the collecting bargaining, I mean, it's preventing those actions from happening, wouldn't it not?
And that's where you have to tweak the agreement. You know, as we close that up this year,
Mhm.
we fine tune it to where there's an entry left to where city council can jump in and change
Yeah,
that. Because
yeah,
if you, other than just making the contract where there is no change for the next 10 years, we need to get in there and leave an open hole where city council can step in at any time.
right. See, ask what ideas do you have about gentrification in our area?
And I said it earlier, you know, we need more homes, but I don't want to ruin the culture that we have on the south side. We have a lot of beautiful homes that, you know, we can invest in, that funding can be given to a lot of homeowners here throughout the south side and the east side. We have some beautiful neighborhoods. So I don't want to touch what's already here. We can work around it, help those businesses and those homes also to be upgraded at the same time. So it's like I said earlier, development without gentrification.
Yeah, definitely. Funding for methadone no addict should be forced to pay for methadone in the middle of an opioid epidemic.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, you know, it goes back into the homelessness issue also.
Mhm.
Uh, we need to find out who's having problems, who's having drug addiction problems, whether it's alcohol problems, substance abuse problems, mental health issues, whatever it is. You know, we as a community need to step up for our fellow man and ensure that they get back in a right place, in a good place. But you know, if we have an individual that is on the methadone program but is not following the guidelines, then you know it's gonna get cut off. They have to check in every so often. Um, they cannot come up positive on the use of certain drugs, at any drugs. I'm sorry for that matter. But yeah, during this time right now, if they are regularly employed and they've lost their jobs because due to the pandemic, then yeah, we need to help them out also because the addiction, the heroin addiction, is one that is horrific. That some individuals that try to stop that can actually die getting off of that, and we don't want our fellow man to die. We want them to get better and become productive citizens of our community. So I would
Yeah.
definitely.
So what do you envision to bring trust to the city seat, right? Um, from the people that are houseless, or the people that are non-voters, or the people that have strong distrust in the government itself. Um, how do you plan on changing that?
Well, for one, I've got some stuff going out, but you'll see this real soon. But the I think the number one way to do that is people have to be able to contact their representative. One of the biggest concerns I heard is that over the past 8 years, there's been no return phone calls. I'm one of those. I've been trying to fix in front of Schultz, this the Shea Center. I've been trying to fix a speed zone sign for 3 years now that says school zone ends here. It's directly at the front door of the Shea Center on March Street. And for
Hmm.
3 years, it has yet to be fixed. It has yet to be corrected. And today, it's still there. That's the first thing I'm going to do when we get elected. But the way is this: it's very simple. And those of you that are watching, that are listening, take this number down. It's 210-990-8585. That's how you're going to get the trust. That is my cell number. I give it to every single person I meet, every individual. It's on every one of my flyers. It's on every one of my signs. It's on my Facebook. It's on my website. Because if my staff isn't able to respond in a timely manner, call me, and I will respond to you always. That's going to put the trust and the faith back into the people again, so they know that they can, that they know where I live. They come to my home. They can. I don't care. We're going to have open. We're going to have extended hours during the week also. So those that are working, if they can't get out at 4, because to have the whole city shut down at 4:30, that doesn't help the working man, working
Right.
women, the teachers. It doesn't help them. And then we're going to
Right.
try Saturday also.
Yeah, and a lot of the people don't have time to be following this, right? So I mean, is it still an excuse to not vote or to just not be engaged? No. I mean, there's definitely ways to be engaged. That's why doing stuff like this online but it definitely there's a lot of times where people don't have time because they're working 2, 3 jobs and you know, how do we meet those people?
Yeah, and
How do you plan on meeting those people?
well, and it's this is how, the same way, my brother Albert and I, we have the pretty much exact same ideas on that. The tax office is open late during the week. I think it's one day, then they're open one Saturday a month, and I plan to do the exact same thing. We're going to open it later in the evening, uh, at least one day a week, and then on Saturdays I'm going to try to do it at least a month. This way, the people that are working from 8 to 5 can come in after hours and sit down with me or my staff, whoever it may be, and on a Saturday. I mean, imagine being able to go to your city council office on a Saturday. Because again, at 4:30, 5 o'clock, the city's shut down, and you can't get a hold of anybody till the next day if you're lucky. And one of the things that I've had my staff do uh, when I was in Austin is that when somebody was calling about an issue, rather than give them a number like I've been giving for the past 3 years, call this department. If that doesn't work, well, then call this department, not call us back. We'll give you another number. That's not going to be the case. We're going to find out who the individual is that you need to speak with, and we're going to put you in contact with that person. If not, you tell me what the problem is, and we're going to look in resolving the problem rather than try to have the constituent, the voter, the non-voter, have to try and solve the problem themselves. It's too much. It's too much red tape that they have to go through to resolve it.
Mhm.
That's what your city council office is for.
Right. Yeah. Steph says, and to be honest, our doctors are the ones getting our folks addicted. Not always, but a lot. They prescribe and go. Yeah, I mean, very true. I mean, I think this is to the methadone issue. A lot of the doctors, yeah, they're always pushing. All right, here, take this, and it's just like, whoa. Are you sure that's like the best thing to do is just to go straight into medications? I mean, I know medications work, and they're there for a reason, but every single time, I mean, that could be an issue, especially with cost wise, right? The medical issue, it's a huge deal, but we're not going to get into that because that's not even. But Anthony says it's bad policy and training all around. This is as far as police go, they are being trained wrong. Our lives are on the line. McManus can't even admit he has a problem. I've been harassed 4 times alone this year, or this year alone.
And see, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, Anthony. The we need to find out where the problem is, whether it's, again, it's in the original training, again, if it's in the mentorship program, because every officer, once he's gone through training, he rides along with an experienced officer, and we need to find out where the problem is, and we need to tackle that problem. We're going to address it. The I've been lucky that the SCPDs officers that I've always dealt with have always been fantastic with me, and but I do show them a tremendous amount of respect. I do certain things when if I ever get pulled over, which is very, very rare, but if I do, I show them that, hey, I'm gonna cooperate with whatever you ask, and I don't try to give them commands. I listen to what they say, and I respond in a respectable fashion. They respond to me in a respectable fashion. So I've been lucky. I haven't had any problems. I have yet to run, and it's just me. I have yet to run against a bad apple with SAPD. And but that's been my. I'm not saying that we don't have any, and I'm sure what Anthony just said a minute ago. Yeah, you've had some bad instances with people, and we need to find out what's caused that, and let's get it fixed because I want the community. The community as a whole needs to come back together after what we had for 4 years of this hatred that has built up between a lot of the community has got to be mended. You know, this is the south side of San Antonio. This is the best place in San Antonio to live. We have the most beautiful people out here, and we need to remember that and just let's bring it back together again.
Yeah. Anthony asks, do you know any homeless by name in your district? Kind of hard to help homeless if you don't know them or their struggles personally. You have a response to that question?
Yeah, I know a couple of them, not by name. I have a couple that come by the coffee shop, and try to help them out, and give them a little something. But the known by name, I can't say that I do. I did see I saw a real tragic incident, and you may have seen the post on my Facebook where on Goliad Road, somebody set fire to all of the homeless people that were living there, to their belongings. It was sick to do that. I mean, it looks like they doused gasoline over the bridge. They set the bridge on fire, and everything that was under the bridge was just destroyed. And granted, we some people may say, well, that's trash, but to them, that's their home. So
Right.
we need to get closer to our homeless. I have stayed at the Haven for Hope, but Haven for Hope is not what I see as a good way to homeless. We need facilities that I want to bring in and actually renovate facilities or take on facilities that we can turn into uh, housing for them. But the key to that is to have staff that is trained to do assessments to find out whether it's a substance abuse problem, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's shattered home instance, or it could be somebody that just fell on bad luck, and
Yeah.
find out what these are. A lot of times we have individuals that were on certain medications and they quit taking them, and because they had nobody to get them back on track, they end up losing their stability, and next thing you know, they're homeless. And once somebody has gotten off their medication, let's say that they're bipolar, schizophrenic, whatever it may be, to get them back on is very hard. So next thing you know, they're on the streets, and so again, those assessments need to come into play and find out what is it that we can do to get them back on track where they and safe.
Hmm. Nicole says, good morning. There are several newer vacant buildings in the southeast Pecan Valley, Goliad, South Cross area. The businesses didn't survive, but for a very short time, and now those buildings are vacant, taking space. Could you advocate to have those spaces utilized for something that our community actually needs?
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was talking about. We can take those kind of buildings and renovate them and use them for other projects. We need right now, right off the bat, we need vaccination stations throughout the South Side. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done with them. There's a lot of offices that the city needs, and again, the only bad part about that is if those buildings have been vacated and they have yet to be foreclosed on by the bank, or the tax entity. Our appraisal district has not yet, or my brother's office has not yet set the final bill, and it hasn't come into foreclosure, and they haven't started. Um, they haven't had to take possession of the property. That property can stay empty for years until the process goes through, and then it's taken in by the county and then sold on the steps of the courthouse. But that could take it's a very long process unless we are in touch with the owner of the building and they're willing to allow renovation or to be handed over to somebody.
Yeah, and that's another thing is I noticed that the South Side doesn't have any TERS, right?
Yeah.
Um, Do you think there could be a TERS for District 3, and if so, where would you put it?
There could be, but it would have to be a district wide decision because that's the biggest thing that one of the biggest things that people are have concerns with of where different development is going to happen. One of the things that I'm proposing also, and it's on a video that I released, is on our zoning commission. We have one individual that represents all of District 3. Okay, so let's say he lives on, she lives on Gillette and Commercial. Yet the zoning change is going to take place on in Highland Hills,
Mhm.
and he approves it with the rest of the commissioners throughout the entire district. And it comes to my desk, and okay, went to the zoning commission. Are you good with it? Yeah, we're okay with it. It's not going to hurt anything. The neighborhood is fine. Well, the people in the Highland Hills, they haven't had a say so yet, or vice versa if it was the other way around. So what I plan to do is get a commission within District 3 only, and have somebody from each corner of the district and centralized, and them make the decision, and they sit down with the commissioner that is in the district, so that I get input from everybody in District 3 before any decisions are made. Because right now one person is doing it, and I saw what one zoning commissioner did, and he caused a tremendous amount of damage to certain people. I'm not gonna elaborate too much on that, but it did a lot more harm than it did good.
Mhm.
And then also expand from a 200 feet or 250 feet, I think it's what it is, to 1,000, because there's businesses that are going to affect everybody, not just the person that lives next door to them. So
Right.
look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a big thing. So what uh what does community mean to you?
My people, my neighbors, my friends, my children, the children that live around me. Um, we are a community. We're very strong. We need the community to come out and vote. Community is every person that comes into my coffee shop, the person that I see at HEB, my children, my grandchildren, my neighbors. We're the south side of San Antonio is like a small town in itself. We have the small town environment in the majority of it. We have some pockets that need some help, but as a whole, I see everybody that lives on the south side as a brother, you know. And I love to help people, and I want to help every single area of District T that I can, and I'm not going to do it in 6 months. It's gonna take some time, but I know that I've seen a lot of areas that the people that brought up more than anything else, and those are the ones I want to attack first. But community is making sure that our children are educated, that our seniors are taken care of, our disabled are protected. That's what we need to do. We need to do it together. We need to protect our senior citizens. We need to make sure that they're able to pay for their prescription. That they can go to a store with no threat of any harm coming to them. We need to make sure that our children are safe. And so that's community is everybody around me.
And when you talk about the prescriptions itself, how do you plan on helping with that? I mean, the prescription prices are ridiculous, and I hope you're not I hope you're not saying to do like city funding for medication, because I think to tackle the issue is tackling the actual pharmaceutical companies, right? But how do you plan on helping with those?
Well, we need to go after our legislators, is what we need to do. Not go after them in a negative way, but we need to get with our legislators, and especially our congressmen, our senators, because those are the ones that can make the difference. Our president is the one that can do that. Unfortunately, city council doesn't have the authority to do that. If there is funding that's allowed for that type of program, then we can you can utilize that. But again, it's just sad to see that our senior citizens, and I've seen it to where they actually skip a dose of one of their medications, or just not take it or not fill it at all, because they have to pay their light bill, or they have to pay, whatever else comes up, and they can't go without electricity, so they go without their medication. So it's a very sad thing, and
Yeah.
we need to step up to the plate. Everybody does.
Yeah, and especially just food. I mean, food. We've had a lot of issues with the food, and I know last year when I was running, we were doing a lot of food distributions, and but it was just never enough, right? And but it was also never the best, most efficient way to use those resources. And I don't know if you've heard it from people, but I definitely heard it a lot that people couldn't use the food that they were getting from the food bank, right? Because a lot of it would either go spoiled, or some were diabetic, they couldn't eat some of the things. So, you know, what are some things that you think we can improve on with maybe the food bank? I'm not saying that the food bank's doing anything bad. It's just I think
Right.
we can maybe fix it, right? Because that was the common thing that I kept hearing is a lot of this food goes to waste. Um,
What happens is that in the food, I volunteered several times at the food bank, and Mario, the CEO of it, he does a great job. And what we're doing is we get lined up at the food bank, and we visually inspect every single can to make sure that it's not expired. And if you cannot read the ingredients and you cannot read the expiration date, then it gets trashed. It goes away completely. So I don't know how anything is getting out of there, because they give us very, very, very strict rules that if
oh
another,
no. I mean, they're giving an abundance of things like I don't know,
like beets.
6 heads of lettuce, or 4 gallons of milk. I mean, and it's somebody's lactose intolerant. I mean, it's there's got to be a better way, right? So I mean, I know there's been a couple of different things like um my friends down at VA Coronado, they had a to where you basically use, I guess, a voucher, and you had like a certain amount on that voucher, and you could
Right.
spend like a food, like a food market, right, or a market, and you could just go down and say, okay, well, I want to buy this, I want to buy this, and you could hand select what you want to get. I mean, is that something that can be done rapid, like now? Because I mean, it's just,
What we can do is, again, I can sit down with Mario, and then, we've had many discussions, and one of the things that I was thinking about was to get a place, or several places, in the south side, in the east side, and uh, and then get the okay, and then I'm sorry, about the coffee shop. Anyway,
no,
the is get a place to where people can come in and, like I said, use a voucher, so they don't get 3 4 gallons of milk at one time, and they've got two children, because they're going to, it's going to get spoiled, like you said. But where they
right,
can get a gallon at a time, and then go back and get another gallon. So the food bank, uh, I'm going to be asking the food bank to open other food mini food banks, basically, to where we can store only milk, and only cereal, and only, let's say, oatmeal, and the basic necessities that most people need, and have only those types of food products there. Because when you go to the food banks, they go in there and they want to stock up, because it's an hour and a half line, like during the pandemic,
yeah,
hour and
yeah,
a half line wait to go in there and get, you know 4 gallons of milk, and then not everybody drinks, like you say, or they're lactose intolerant. They can't consume it. So yeah, smaller areas, or smaller, basically mini food banks that can be spread out, and so everything is kept up to date, and they'll get the better foods, because sometimes they get a can of beets, and I'm not gonna eat the beets. I'm sorry. My dad can beat me over the head 10, but I'm not gonna eat the beets. I'm sorry. I'll go to my room
no
crying.
pun intended.
So, and they the food bank. I got to tell you, when I saw the volunteers there, we have, again, San Antonio is the greatest community in the United States. To see the people volunteering out there, it was wonderful. And then we had food that we were giving out also from the coffee shop, Waters, a good friend of mine, and I got to give him a shout out to it. I'm sorry, but I have to do this. Tony Macias from CNC Automotive. he was gathering food also and taking them to homes that needed it. I was doing the same thing. We opened up our coffee shop as a warming center. Uh, it and for people to come charge their phone, get warmed up, free coffee. It's people like Tony and and other people that make a difference in the South Side. Again, it's just the greatest community that there is. So people
Yeah.
are willing to help. We just got to come up with the right game plan.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of resources, right? There's I know myself, like I was constantly putting out resources, especially for the the snowvid, if you want to call it. Um, you know, and the city was silent, right? What what do you think what do you think the city could have done better, and how will you use that in the future?
Well, we could have had better leadership to begin with, starting with CPS at the top. They know, they're trained. Um, they know what kind they have prepared for major catastrophes like what we had, and they didn't step up to the plate in being ready for that. So I lost a good friend of mine, Zeke Mendoza, who was a Harlandale school board member, who passed away because he couldn't get his dialysis, and I had to attend his funeral. And I'm waiting for that chance. God willing, if I get elected, to be able to sit in front of that desk and find out, get the answers, and find out exactly where we failed, to try to uh, have a ploy and go after ERCOT, which I'm not saying ERCOT didn't fail, but CPS failed. And it starts with the head of CPS. And if if they knew that was going on, they knew what was going on, and they just didn't bother to have the right actions in place, then they need to be taken out of office, out of their seat, and replaced with somebody that is willing to be prepared at all times. Because it's not a matter of if this is going to happen again. It's a matter of when it's going to happen again. Global warming is here. If you don't believe in it, I'm sorry, it is here. We've seen it.
I mean, let alone this year, has it should be clear indication that it's not, something's not right. So hopefully you understand that.
And
But and that's the thing is the sad thing is they used that kid at UIW as a scapegoat, right? They said that they had him as a meteorologist, and it was just sad. I mean, that's not,
you know,
no.
I was able to drive in the snow. I had to drive all the way across San Antonio, throughout all of San Antonio, searching for milk to keep the coffee shop open. Uh, but I was one of the lucky ones. With my truck, I could get around, but there was too many people stuck at home, freezing to death, and just not having the basic needs, the water, and being able to have water just to flush, and even having clean drinking water. They were having to drink tap water because they couldn't get anything else. So we distributed what we could. Everybody did what they could. That those that were willing to volunteer, they did a
Right.
tremendous job. But just again, CPS failed us.
Yeah, and I think you look at the Saha facilities too. That was a big one. The Saha facilities that they didn't have anybody, no security guards, nothing. They just left
Yeah,
those people there, and there was a lot of issues with food, and luckily we were able to get some food down there for some people. But it's just it was sad that people people that were in a sense relying on the city or some organizations. I mean, they weren't getting it, and they were left out. um and hopefully it doesn't happen again. And I think this exposed some of the issues that are happening that people didn't really care about, or maybe not paid attention to, and hopefully that'll continue to get better, hopefully. um so what are some of, let's see here. Oh, have you ever thought about ranked choice voting? Have you ever heard of it?
no.
Okay, so ranked choice voting basically. especially in situations like in your district where there were, what was it, 12 candidates. Um, you basically have a ranking system, and you were basically anybody, you can rank them in order by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however you want to rank them. And basically, if that top person, right, the one who has the most votes, like I was it you or Viagran who had like the most votes?
It was Viagra.
Okay, so let's say Vigran does. She obviously doesn't have the 50+1. Then instead of having a runoff, you would have an instant runoff with ranked choice voting. So the last person who's on the bottom would get removed, and then the person who voted for that top person, then their number 2 vote would come into play. Then so on and so forth, and it would go down multiple rounds until there's a clear winner. And that would eliminate runoff elections, which cost the city or the county $8 to $10 million. That's $8 to $10 million just to hold these runoff elections, where there's already low voter turnout, right? Um, and there's low voter turnout in the regular elections too, but to where you would save so much money, right, and so much time and so much confusion. Is that something that you think could be a benefit for our city?
It could be if you had the right people in office. Right now, we have a program that is being used by, well, not being used actually by the city, and I believe it costs around $50 million, and it's being used by code compliance. Or again, it's just lying that it's not being used. So the looking at the cost of what we just wasted versus the cost of an election, I would go with the cost of the election instead, unless we had a perfect system working within the city, and we don't. I've been a lot of stuff has been brought to light to me as to what's going on within the city, and there's a lot of things that need to be looked at and fixed. And at this point on this election, I would say no. On other
Yeah,
elections, depending on what, I guess it would depend on the election and what's at stake. When you're looking at something that the millions of dollars that go to the city, I would rather have the right person in there voted by the people, uh, and have a runoff election. And not because I'm going to run off. That's not. But I look at some of the things that I'm going to be attacking, and one of them is about $50 million project that we just wasted money on. So I wouldn't agree with that one. Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because actually, Austin just passed ranked choice voting, which I was surprised because I didn't even know they were trying to get ranked choice voting, and I know it's been in other states and it's a new concept, but I was really surprised. And actually, for all y'all watching, I will be having um, Aaron Hamilton from the Center of Election Science. He will be coming onto the podcast very soon, which is huge because they go over different variables of ranked choice voting, approval voting, different type of voting structures, and why they work and don't work. So it might be a good conversation to have. Uh, is there any? I do want to ask this question, and I think it's a fair question. Um, do you how do you separate yourself with the name, right, your last name, um because you and Viagron obviously have a name, right, in the politics itself,
right,
but how do you separate yourself, especially, I mean, and I hate to bring it up, but especially with your brother,
right.
um how do you separate yourself, how can you gain that trust, because that's been a big question that has been asked, to me, is how do you separate yourself, and how can people trust the Uresti name itself?
Well, there's just quite a bit to look at. One, you look at what my brother Albert has done. Albert has kept saved people from losing their homes. Thousands of people have been able to save their homes because of the programs that he implemented, especially with the 10-month payment plan for those that for our seniors and those that have paid off their house. Those that are on the 2-month the 2-part payment plan for their taxes also. So the work that Albert has done is one thing to look at. The other is the work that I have done. In the 13 years I served as a school board member, I slept like a baby every night, knowing I did the right thing, but I could because I always put the children first. And I can't go over every single vote that I took and everything that I did, but I can guarantee you that I looked not knowing that I was ever going to have handicapped grandchildren, but I ended up being uh, the person to push to help those that are handicapped. I pushed to make sure that the schools were safe, and we brought in the STEM program, the STEM high school. We brought in we enhanced the health careers program to where they have their own facilities now, and I have an impeccable background record with that. My personal background record is perfect. And and then as a state legislator, I wrote bills that my number one bill that I wrote that I'm very proud of. Unfortunately, for some reason, uh, the colleagues I had then didn't want to see it pass, and that was to enhance punishment to anybody that brought harm to a child, to a handicapped individual, or to our senior citizens, whether it be assault, sexual assault, uh, whatever it may be, a harm to any one of those three classifications of individuals, that they spend what's called shock treatment, 6 months in a state jail, and then we talk about plea bargaining. I've always put our children and our vulnerable first. And if you look at my voting record, you look at what I've done as a state rep, you look at what I've done as a school board trustee, and you will see what I'm actually about. I've given my life to our community, and again, in mentoring, coaching. I've coached for God Almighty how many years. I've tutored the children that grew up around me that I helped know that. I opened my business during the pandemic. I volunteered countless hours. I've given thousands of dollars of my own money to help our community. And one other thing, if you have a relative that was found guilty of DWI, for example, um, does that make you an alcoholic? And that's the way people need to look at it. It's unfortunate what happened with Carlos. I don't. Again, because of what happened to one individual doesn't automatically erase everything that I have done, what Albert has done, and it doesn't erase what Carlos did either. I mean,
Mhm.
Carlos started our Blue Ribbon Task Force, which is the main thing that protects our children, uh, and the CPS programs that he started, and we follow in what he started, and we're going to finish what he started, and he'll be back to finish it also. So that's what people need to look at. We're brothers. I love my brother very, very much. My brother Albert. I mean, he's been a pillar of the community for a very long time, and he does a fantastic job. So again, it's unfortunate, but you know that's what they need to look at. It's like me. It's like people saying, "Well, you know what? We don't want another Vietnam because Rebecca has failed in these areas." And I hear this all the time, but
Yeah, yeah,
Phyllis is not Rebecca. So
right.
I'm not holding anything against Phyllis. I'm not happy with what's happened over the past 8 years, but that doesn't mean Phyllis is going to be the same. So
Right, right. Yeah.
okay.
And thank you for answering that, because I mean, I think it's a legitimate question of,
It is. It
because
is, yes.
people ask, and I think people need to look at it from a different perspective. And if you would have been like, I don't want to answer that, then that would have been kind of weird, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but I think it's a great rebuttal for that. I mean, that's definitely a good thing to look at in that lens, and I appreciate for you for answering that. But last question before we go. I know you're busy, and this is going to be the hardest question. Okay,
Uh oh.
what are your what are your top three favorite restaurants in District 3?
Oh, you would do that to me. Well, how many coffee shops? Mine does not include because we only
Yeah.
have coffee and frappuccinos and all that. I'm not going to push my coffee shop, but anyway, my top three restaurants. God, okay, okay. It's La Sorpresa Mexican restaurant owned by Vanessa, where I eat all the time. And then I'm gonna have to say Claudia's on Pleasanton Road. And then I'm gonna have to say Migran Jalisco on Amber and South Flores. These are
Okay.
all these are three family-owned restaurants that do a great job. No matter what you get there, it's gonna be. I'm not taking away from all the other restaurants are
Oh
all,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
my three favorite again is Migran Jalisco, family owned. The husband is the cook. The mother and daughters are the ones that wait on you. Uh, it's great food. Well, my wife and I eat there all the time. Claudia is family owned also, and now she has two restaurants. It's also run by family. La Sorpresa on Vestal and Pleasanton Road. It's owned by Vanessa Salazar and her. She has family members there. A great staff. The food is always good, and I don't even have to place my order. I just raise my finger, number three, and they'll. It's that done. They're great restaurants. Yeah, that's
Nice.
now the best coffee shop. That's a different. There's only one, so I don't have to worry
There's
about it.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for joining. I do want to remind everybody today is the last day to protest your taxes, your property taxes, May 17th. If you haven't done so, please do it now. It's easy, simple. Just call them to get an e-pin if you don't have it on your paper. Even if you just do the first offer, that's fine. They take off like about 5,000, but if you want to go in further, you can reject that first offer, and then they'll go into a um, formal protest. Yeah, so make sure you do that ASAP today. Do not wait around, because if not, you will be priced out of your home if you're not careful. So, and that $500 could be like $15, but that's $15 that'll stay in your pocket, and that's every month. And then also, if you do have an issue with your claims, rental claims, things like that, with the past um hail damage, and if you're still dealing with the snow issue, make sure you contact Texas, the TDI texas.gov. It's the Texas Department of Insurance, so that way they could try to help you navigating your insurance claims and things like that. They definitely are a great resource to go. It's a government entity, so they don't charge you for anything. They just have different things that you can approach, and they can help you navigate that. So is there any how can people get a hold of you?
Myself,
Social media, anything.
okay. I have, of course, I have Facebook that has Tomas Uresti. I have um, uh, my website that has a way to contact me also. But again, this is something that I have always done since the first time I've been in office in 2002. My cell phone number is 210-990-8585. And I don't care who has it. Send me a text, leave me a message if I don't answer, and I will get back with you. Uh, Give me more than 5 minutes to get back with you because sometimes I might be a little bit tied up. But or you can even stop by the coffee shop. I mean, sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm not. It's on the corner of Pleasanton Road and Pleasanton Road and West Harding. It's called Corner Coffee and More. Again, sometimes I'm here. Right now, I'm sitting in front of it in my truck because I couldn't get on where I was at, and Eric was generous enough to hold off for a few minutes so I could get to a Wi-Fi, and found out it was my fault the whole time. But
It happens. It happens.
yeah,
It's happened to me too. I'm like, what is going on? And then how can people are you still taking donations? Are you still taking volunteers?
yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, you can go to my website at www.tomasuresti.com. You can donate online there. You can mail a check to 243 Creeth Place. It's Creath Place, San Antonio, Texas 78221. There's a maximum contribution of $500. You cannot give cash any more than $50, and I have to write you out a receipt, and we have to know what your occupation is. Those are some of the guidelines set out by the city and by the state. Your occupation, your address, is what's required also in order to give a contribution, so that it keeps everybody honest that way, and that's the best way to do things.
Yeah. And then volunteers, are you doing block walking and all that stuff? And
But we're doing block walking. Sunday was a beautiful day, but I threw out my back. I wasn't able to do anything. But we're going to be block walking this week if the rain doesn't hit us. So yeah, if you just call my cell phone or email me. Oh, sorry, I forgot to give my email. It's tomasuresti@gmail.com. All combined. Just but it's not Thomas with an H. It's Tomas Tomas Uresti@gmail.com. You can shoot me an email and we'll get together. Instant message me on Facebook. I'm not hard to find. It's pretty easy.
let me make sure I got it in there. Let's see. Hold on. No, I can't post the email, but yeah, but it's okay. Well, great. Well, thank you, Tomas, for just joining and having this conversation. Is there any last things that you want to say before we wrap up?
Well, no. Again, I've served this community for since way back in the '90s. I know the South Side. I know District Three. Uh, District Three. The people here I consider my family. I'm a phone call away. I think I am more than qualified to hit the ground running the second we take office with your vote. Bring a friend to vote. Bring your mother-in-law. Bring your father-in-law. Bring anybody you can. Let's make some noise. Let's finish this up. We got this with your support. We can do this, and you'll have somebody that's going to respond every time you reach out. No one's going to get skipped. It doesn't matter whether you voted for me or you didn't vote for me. It doesn't matter where you live. You will get a response from me. I can guarantee you that. And I want you to hold me accountable once I take office.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining, and also don't forget, guys. Oh shoot, 30 minutes. We got another interview with Tori from radio station 98.9. Hope I got that right. A good friend of mine, Tori E. So make sure you stay tuned. Come in and ask questions as well. But thank you, Tomas. I appreciate for coming on. And all the viewers watching as well, if you'd also like to contribute to this live stream, you can do so. My Cash App is down below. Please do if you'd like to see more content like this. And thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Please vote. Please vote. Get some of those. Get your people out. Try to get this momentum keep going from last November. Go in and vote. Learn about what's on the ballot. It's just going to be the runoff elections, but keep engaged with your people. Keep engaged with your community. Keep engaged with your elected officials. Because if Mr. Tomas if Mr. Tomas gets elected and you don't tell him what's wrong with your neighborhood, he's not going to know what is wrong. I mean, yes, you'll know some things, right? But what's going on with your street, what's going on with this, he's not going to know a lot of these ins and outs because it's a huge district, right? I mean, it's a good piece of
square miles.
Yeah. And so I believe, what is it, like 170,000 people, was it, right? Something like that. It's big. So definitely make sure you go in and ask these questions. But thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Tomas, for joining and having this conversation.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Y'all have a great day. Bye.